The African Union has called for urgent de-escalation following strikes by the United States and Israel against Iran, warning that further escalation could have serious consequences for Africa. Now, the Pan-African body emphasized the need for restraint and sustained dialogue, highlighting the potential impact on global energy markets, food security, as well as economic stability. Now, African nations already facing conflict and economic pressures could be particularly affected if tensions in the Middle East continue to rise, underscoring the need for measured diplomatic engagement to prevent further regional and global fallout. And so to help us make sense of all the developments that have happened last 24 hours, we're joined by geopolitical analyst Ali Komape, as well as oil and gas technologist, and that's Bolarinwa Durojaiye. Gentlemen, many thanks for joining us. I appreciate you for coming on. Let me start with you, Ali. What could be the real goal behind the U.S.-Israel joint strikes on Iran? At this rate, wouldn't U.S. and its Israel ally be seen as unrepentant bullies?
Good day to you and your viewers, and thank you for having us. There's no goal for the United States, of course. This is primarily an operation by the Zionist state of Israel. Since 1995, when Netanyahu started being active in politics of Israel, he has been singing the same tune that Iran must be attacked. He's been saying Iran is at the brink, 90% enrichment of uranium and 90% at developing nuclear weapons, which is not true. So this has no interest for the United States. The United States keeps on saying we are defending our interest in the region. It's not the United States' interest. It is Israel's interest. The United States a long time ago divorced its oil interest in Iran when the regime, the monarch regime collapsed and the Islamic Republic was established. The oil of Iran then became nationalized to the state. They long divorced those interests, especially the UK as well, BP petroleum oil. They long divorced it. So there's no interest of the West in Iran. It is the interest of Israel. For instance, we know for a fact that in Obama, yes, the 2 terms that Obama was president in the United States, Bibi Netanyahu has been saying, can we please attack Iran? Can we please attack Iran? And Iran, the United States refused. Even under President Biden, they refused. It is under this raging lunatic, Donald Trump, that the United States is now bombing, allowing Israel to attack Iran and baking Israel to attack Iran. There's no interest for the United States. There's no interest for the citizens of the United States in this particular illegal criminal attack on Iran. It's the interest of the criminal state of Israel.
Right. You called the president of the United States a raging lunatic. Man. Let me move on to Bolarinwa. Bolarinwa, how do these attacks shift the balance of power in the Middle East? And do you also align with Ali's comments?
Hi, and thanks for having me. The tensions have been building up over time, and we've all been witness to that. Your question is, how does this change the balance of power? I would say that the action of Iran, the retaliatory action of Iran, and not just targeting Israel and U.S. bases now, but targeting neighboring Gulf countries, Bahrain, the UAE, Qatar, is essentially is a whole new level of escalation, because these countries did not attack Iran. The attacks from Iran did not come from these countries either. So pulling them into this conflict is essentially uniting a coalition, and they've started issuing statements. So, for instance, Saudi Arabia, that had previously, emphatically denied the U.S. The ability to launch attacks from Saudi, has now rescinded all of those limitations and is almost unapologetically stating that no holds barred. They're all essentially uniting against Iran. It's a bit difficult to see what the end game is here for Iran in this particular action. I mean, we expected some retaliatory response, but not against 4 or 5 neighboring Gulf countries that literally had nothing to do with the attack. So it's an unfolding crisis, and it's one to watch. It's a bit early to start to say things emphatically, but it's definitely one to watch. Again, like I said, it's a bit unclear why Iran would want to do something that is uniting all of its neighbors against it.
Right. Bolarinwa, we'll need you to speak up just a little bit for us. But let me quickly come to you, Ali. How is this exchange of strikes likely to affect U.S. and allied military deployments in the Gulf and broader Middle East as well?
We know that Israel survives on war. Since its establishment in 1948, Israel has been at war in the region. Israel, by the way, historically we know that it was a proxy state of the United Kingdom through the Balfour Declaration and so on. Now, it's a proxy state of the United States. It survives on war. Professor Finkelstein says that Israel is a war junkie. They need their fix time and again. In this particular instance, they need war to survive. Netanyahu needs war to survive. Those that are on the military analyst side, they say that the military industrial complex of the United States needs war. Therefore, that's why there's the defense department was named the Department of War. There needs to be a war. So in this particular instance, the end goal, like they said, is to have a regime change in Iran. You cannot have a legitimate government put down their arms, their right to defend themselves, and say come and take over the government through other means. It's not possible. Their end goal here is a regime change, which it will not happen. Iran has said that they'll give a historic fight against the United States, and they'll teach the United States and Israel a lesson. We know very well that a regime change is not really possible until in the Middle East, and history is the best teacher in Afghanistan, in Iraq, without boots on the ground. We believe there will be a full invasion of Iran, boots on the ground by United States and Israeli forces, and Iran has said, bring it on. That on that front, they won't win. I think the Taliban has said to a couple of weeks ago, the Taliban has said to the government of Iran, we can share strategy and tactics on how we defeated them if they were to put boots on the ground in your soil.
All right. Bolarinwa, I'm just going to shoot this question at you, just for you to just think on it, because we're going on a short break, right? Tehran says it was aware that the situation was going degenerate to this, that it was going to degenerate to this point, yet it entered into a dialogue with the U.S. Wouldn't this be seen as a waste of time and national resources with all the manpower that has been deployed into these negotiations? We're going to talk about that, just for you to think on that thought. You're watching News Now on News Central Television. Let's go on a short break. When we come back, your answers will be waiting for you. After the break, stay with us. And you're welcome back. Now, you already know the headlines at this time is unrest in the Middle East as coordinated attacks from the U.S. and Israel onto Iran in the capital there, Tehran. Our guest today is Ali Komape, as well as Bolarinwa Durojaiye, joining us virtually, just both analysts, just giving us in-depth analysis on the issues at fore. Now, before the break, Bolarinwa, I was asking you about, Tehran saying that it was aware that the situation was going to degenerate to this point, but yet they decided to enter into a dialogue with U.S. I do have to ask you, doesn't this seem like a waste of time and national resources? I mean, given that all this manpower and time has been deployed into negotiations, knowing fully well it would get to this point.
Thanks. I wouldn't really necessarily say that Iran knew that the situation would degenerate to this point. I wouldn't necessarily say that. As a matter of fact,
right,
as you will.
Right, but just to come in here and just fact check that the foreign ministry of Iran said that they knew that this was going to get to this point, yet they went into the negotiation phase.
Yeah, but what do you expect them to say? That's what they would say, because
Okay.
this is an opportunity for them to make the US look bad. Like we were in talks and you attacked us essentially. What I will say, and I will be careful. Like I said, it's a developing situation. There's usually much more that we don't know than we know. Um, Whatever informed that strike very early this morning is beyond what we know. For all you know, it wasn't even necessarily planned. Anybody who is well versed in geopolitics and clandestine activities would know that these things happen. It is very, very possible that this particular escalation, it's very possible that it wasn't planned. It's possible that something in particular triggered it. An opportunity might have presented itself, and action was taken immediately. So, like I said, there's a lot more that we don't know. That would be my response.
Ali, do you want to add to that? Do you think that this was an effort in futility?
Look, like I say time and again, history is the best teacher. Donald Trump, a couple of months back, Donald Trump asked the leadership of Hamas to come to negotiations in Doha. They chose a secure place, and when the leadership of Hamas went there, he bombed and killed them. We know very well that in this particular instance, reports coming out of Israel suggest that 2 weeks ago, Netanyahu had planned this. It was just a decision of time and date. The negotiations were futile. They knew that this was a distraction to the Iranians. The Iranians, they said, give an example, the Iranians said after the first attack by Israel and the United States that they do not have nuclear weapons. The White House responded, our mission was successful. We have dismantled all nuclear weapons and ballistic missiles of Iran. Just now, they are telling us that they are taking Iran's nuclear military sites and ballistic. Which ones? They said they destroyed them a couple of months back when they attacked them. So it was intentional. It was to distract the Iranians. It was to distract Iran's allies in the region. It was to cross the T's and dot the I's on their plan to attack Iran. There's nothing genuine that Donald Trump has done. And like I said, history is the best teacher. What would convince us that these negotiations were genuine when he has not done it in the past? This is a guy who said that it is not in the interest of the United States to attack Iran. In fact, he said that on Twitter, that it is the Democrats' strategy to stay in power to get votes to start a war with Iran. He came on a ticket that this is the president of the United States who does not want unnecessary wars, withdraw from Afghanistan, withdraw troops from Syria, and that's what he said. Today he's attacking Iran. This is like I said, he's a raging lunatic, he's a madman. He says one thing and he does the other.
Okay, so do you think that the neighboring countries around Iran are at risk of being drawn into a conflict? I mean, we've seen Doha and the other countries there just sort of intercepting missiles that have been launched from Iran.
It's very unlikely. I can tell you now, in the history of the Islamic Republic of Iran, there's no single country in the world that Iran has attacked. No single country. Now, Iran has targeted military bases of the United States in neighboring countries. And they have sent that communication to their neighbors that in an event that we are attacked by the United States and Israel, we will then retaliate by bombing the bases in your country. In fact, Doha must not behave as if they are holier than thou. When Israel attacked Qatar a couple of months back, saying that they are taking the Palestinian leadership, Doha said, no, we will not retaliate, but we will go into conversations with the Israelis. So Iran has not attacked civilians. Iran has not attacked any infrastructure of neighboring countries, Bahrain, UAE, Qatar. It has attacked military bases of the United States. That is a fact.
Okay. Bolarinwa, we learned that most contracts in the oil and gas sector are done using future, agreements. What does this mean, and what implications would this have on Nigeria?
Yes, indeed. Most of these contracts are conducted on the basis of what the market sees as, the direction of pricing of the commodity oil in this case. In terms of what we expect generally for the oil price, all of the military build-up, and the trajectory, the conversations have been taken, have already been priced into the market to a certain extent. So you will see that the price of crude has been inching upwards in the past few weeks. As markets open tomorrow evening, it is expected that the price will go up even higher. It's an emerging conflict. Nobody knows how far it will go. The word on everybody's lips is the Straits of Hormuz, and exactly how far Iran will go in whatever their military strategies are. However, if these straits are compromised, you're going to be looking at a 20 to 25% disruption in crude oil deliveries and capabilities to the global market via shipping, and about 20% of LNG. So it's significant. A bit of it has been priced in already, but if the escalations continue, we will probably be looking at much, much higher oil prices in the near future.
And Ali, are African nations likely to face pressure to take sides in this conflict?
Of course, of course. My colleague here is omitting to tell us that Iran is one of the most sanctioned. Actually, Iran is the most sanctioned country in the history of sanctions. That is the words of Barack Obama. That is the words. That is the words of President Biden. That is the words of Donald Trump. You buying Iranian oil it's like Venezuelan oil. It's sanctioned. The United States has sanctioned not only the oil but companies that trade with Iran. Countries that have strong trade with Iran are likely to be pressured. For instance, South Africa in the African continent that trades with Iran, that are members of BRICS with Iran, and so on. Of course, they're going to be pressured into not only taking sides, but isolating Iran in the main. And that is what the United States does. The United States does not want their victim to have allies. They want to isolate them. So in this particular instance, they've said, by the way, there are rumors in the Western media that hundreds of thousands of Iranians that were protesting on the streets are killed. Therefore, this is an evil regime. Lies. They want to isolate Iran from its allies, and they want to suggest this is an evil regime that has no allies, that has no friends. Therefore, we have a right to attack them. We have a right to isolate them. This is what they want. So we are likely to see it. For instance, South Africa is a new ambassador from the United States who has made his intentions very clear. They are in this country to pressure the government into a particular foreign position policy. That's what they want. We are likely to see it happening in Nigeria as well. We're likely to see it happening in most of West Africa, where they are when they are invested in isolating Iran, where Iran has allies. We are likely to see this happening in the next coming weeks, of course.
Bolarinwa, still on oils, right? But the prices this time. I mean, Nigerians here, if we have to pay 5 naira additional to what we already pay at pump price, it's a headache for everyone. So could oil prices fall or rise if the conflict lingers beyond this weekend?
Oh yeah, like I said previously, the expectation is that oil prices will rise in the short term, and if the escalations continue in the medium term, it will rise even further. In terms of what this means for Nigeria, it's a double-edged sword. Obviously, we know that our budget benchmarks in terms of crude oil prices is about $64-65 per barrel. The recent price point for Brent slightly over 70, and our crude grades are generally around that also. which means that we are significantly above the budget benchmark already. If prices rise even further, we get more earnings, obviously, from crude oil sales. The other part to it is the degree to which we need to import downstream products, finished products, especially petrol, obviously will determine how exposed we are to these price movements. The Dangote refinery recently, has let us know, that they've ramped up their output to a significant degree. The more we're able to produce domestically, and the less we need to import, then the less exposure we will have to all of this volatility, basically.
All right, well, gentlemen, let's just, all eyes now are on the Middle East and seeing how this would play out for the entirety of this weekend. Gentlemen, I must say thank you for taking out the time to join us. Ali Komape, he is an analyst, as well as Mr. Bolarinwa Durojaiye, who's an oil and gas analyst. Gentlemen, thank you.